this is Annie Mailian. Thanks for joining us today. I'm with KW Commercial, and today I'm speaking with Phil Atwan from Exchange Resources, and he'll be talking about 1031 exchanges. Hi Phil, how are you today?
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks. Welcome to our office.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I've been in the real estate affiliate business since 1982. I began in the title insurance business, and I transitioned into the 1031 exchange business back in 1998. It was the perfect setup for the exchange business, and that's why I have a good feel for the real estate market and the mechanics of how it works.
Okay. All right, so why don't you tell us or explain to us what is a 1031 exchange?
A 1031 exchange is when you take your tax bases with you to the next property. For example, if you bought a property for $400 and now it's worth $1 million, you would normally have to pay the taxable gain, which is the difference.
Yeah.
Well, the government allows you to take this basis with you, so the gain stays with you to the next property, but you defer the payment of capital gains taxes. For example, 20% on the gain to the IRS, the 3.8 for the healthcare tax.
Oh, yeah.
The state wants around 12.3, and then ultimately the recapture depreciation at 25%. You literally don't have to pay that. You can take the investment to the next property as long as you buy for equal or greater than what you sold for, and reinvest all the equity into the purchase of your new rental property.
Okay. All right. So would you say those are the advantages? I was going to ask you next, what's the advantages of 1031 exchange?
That's a huge advantage, but the bigger advantage is this, Annie. See, for us who own investment property, we bought it for at least 3 reasons. Number one, to create income. We want the property to work for us so we don't have to. So it produces cash and income. Number 2, we want it to appreciate. We want it to be worth more in the future than what we paid for it. Number 3, we want a tax write-off because as we collect rent, we have to pay income taxes, ordinary income taxes on that rent. Well, that can be as high as 40, 45, even 50%, depending on your tax bracket. The advantage of the exchange is it allows you to sell the rental you've had that you've accumulated equity in, not pay the capital gains tax on all that growth of gain, buy a better property. It'll generate more income and appreciation and tax write-off for you if you buy up. So there's a lot of advantages to doing this investment property to investment property exchange.
That's true. Okay, so can I ask, what is the most common 1031 exchange type?
The most common that we've served your clients with and so many others all over the country is what they call a delayed exchange. A delayed exchange says that we have to set up all the exchange paper while you're in escrow. Not after escrow, because it's too late. It becomes taxable if we don't set up all the necessary documentation. Once the sale closes, you have 180 days, which is a little less than 6 months, to close escrow on another rental or like-kind property. The definition of like-kind means any investment property for any investment property. So for example, if your client is selling a office building or a commercial building, and they don't want to do that anymore, they just want a 4-unit rental investment property, it would qualify under like-kind because it's investment real estate to investment real estate. So you have 180 days to close escrow on whatever you're going to buy that's equal or greater in value. But the first 45 days, you have to name the address of the property you're going to close in the 180 days. And the government allows you to name up to 3 properties, and you can choose any or all of those properties, whichever you wish, to acquire that equal or greater. And they could be anywhere in the country. You're selling California, you can buy in New York, you can buy in Alabama, Montana, Hawaii, anywhere in the country. That's the beauty of it.
Okay, I was going to ask you about what is a delayed exchange, but I think you explained it.
That is a delayed exchange, but there's another kind of exchange that's very popular right now, Annie. It's called a reverse exchange.
Okay.
As you know, there's not a lot of inventory out there. And if the key to selling is to buy a better property that'll generate more income and cash flow and appreciation and all that, it's tough to find them when there's not a lot of inventory out there. The reverse exchange allows your clients to first buy the replacement property, secure, not be under that 45-day deadline once the sale closes. Wait and find the right property, acquire it, and then close the sale, which is a lot easier in this marketplace that we're in, within 180 days. So it lets them do it backwards and do the most important part first, which is to buy the replacement property.
Oh, that's really good to know. It's a good way to go. Okay, what types of properties are eligible for a 1031 exchange?
That's a great question, and this is so misunderstood out there. It can't be your primary residence, though if you're selling a 4-unit building and you live in one of the units, you could exchange the value of the 3 units. That is rental. It can't be your primary or second home or vacation home. So if you're holding the property for either income, or you're putting your business in it to run your business, or if you're using the property just for appreciation, to buy it with the intent to watch it grow in value, like vacant land, for example. All of those properties are exchangeable, and you can go back into any one of those types of investment properties, as long as you reinvest all the equity into the purchase and buy for equal or greater than what you sold for.
Okay, all right. And so I was going to ask you, what's the time frame? I think you addressed it.
I did.
The 45 days for identification and 180 to close.
That's the most important part, that 45-day identification, because I said the key to the exchange is not selling, it's buying better property.
Yeah. And then so my last question is, why does a client need an intermediary, a company such as yours or any other?
Can I just tell you bluntly, because the IRS says so.
Oh, okay.
In other words, if you think of the word exchange, it means trade. In the old days, back in 1921, when Congress invented the exchange to stimulate the economy, to let their investors, farmers, anybody who used property for their business or investment or income use, to be able to change it, they would trade with each other, equal property. But now, because of the law change, you don't have to do that. You can sell literally to one party and buy from a completely different party, but you have to use an intermediary. The intermediary sets up the paperwork in both escrows on the one that you're selling and the one that you're buying, and there's the responsibilities to hold the equity in between. So to the client, it's a trade. They're like trading with us.
Right, right.
But they can buy any property from any other person anywhere in the country. That's why they need an intermediary, also known as a qualified intermediary, accommodator, facilitator, lots of different names they call us.
Okay. And the risk factor is because you're insured and you're bonded, it's basically...
Yes, but we actually do a little bit more. We don't commingle funds like so many different qualified intermediaries do.
No.
We set up an individual account for every single client, so it's segregated. Number 2, we don't set it up as a corporate asset of Exchange Resources. We set it up as the trust account, which means if something were ever to happen to us, bankruptcy for example, that money can't leave that account because it doesn't belong to us. And number 3, our company has that your client, once that money sits in that account, it can't leave that account unless they give a written authorization for that money to leave the account, and the authorization has to say how much leaves and where it goes. If that doesn't happen, the bank doesn't move it.
Okay. All right, so if they have more questions, we have a link on the screen. They could go and basically read up more in length about the 1031 exchanges. And,
or if they'd like to call me,
yeah.
There's no obligation. It's my pleasure just to answer their questions. And we do this, like I said, between Hawaii all the way up to the New England area. So we do it anywhere nationally.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming over.
It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for involving me.
And hopefully you'll come back in the future.
I'd love it.
Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thanks.